So right now, today, I'm going to be talking about how corporate America gave me PTSD. No cap.
It's my time, think it's my year, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my year, yeah. I really feel it's my time, think it's my year. Been ready, used to hold myself back, myself.
What's good, family? Hey y'all, it's your girl Coco Divine. So I'm starting a new series on my channel. I want to get more intimate. I want people to get to know me behind the scenes. So I'm starting this Coco's Couch series. We're going to see how it goes. But I want to talk about more intimate kind of things and more relatable topics. So right now, today, I'm going to be talking about how corporate America gave me PTSD. No cap. I'm Coco Divine. I'm the owner of King Infinity Inc. That is my LLC business that I started in 2019. The reason why I started that business is because corporate America gave me PTSD, and it's hard for me to work in corporate settings. But there's a story behind it. So I've been working basically all of my life. When I was a teenager, I used to babysit family members or whatever. When I got my first job, I was 15 when I got my very first job. I was working with my aunt. She was a seamstress. She did alterations and she was to fashion design. She made clothes and things like that. And she got me a job working at a place where she worked. She was doing alterations and I was doing steaming the clothes. They did men's suits. So she would be doing the alterations on the suits and everything. And I would be steaming and pressing the clothes that she did alterations on to make them look brand new and crisp or whatever. So I had that job. Then I started working at a local restaurant doing hostessing. Then I started working at a pet store, which I really loved that job. I was really butt hurt when I got fired from there. And the guy fired me for being 4 minutes late. And I'm in high school at this time. I'm catching the city bus to get to this job. When I get there, I'm coming straight from school. So I would have my uniform and my backpack and I would get to work and then I would get dressed as soon as I got there. And I was there on time, but because due to me having to get there and get dressed into the work uniform, I'm not on the floor exactly at the starting time, but I was in the building. So that hurt me because fun fact about me, I love animals and animals love me, right? So when I was young, I wanted to be a veterinarian. That was my dream job. I was like, I'm gonna be a vet. That was what I wanted to be my whole life. And a funny story from when I was a little girl, 6 or 7, my mom told me that I told her, when I grow up, I'm gonna be a veterinarian and I'm gonna get Veterans Day off. So, you know what I'm saying? I was a kid, so I didn't know that veterans was for actual military people, not veterinarians. But that just goes to show you how long I had that dream. I always wanted to be a veterinarian. That was my dream job, just because I love animals just that much. So I started working at a very young age. I've always been very determined in everything that I have done since childhood. I've always been very focused on career and making money. That was just ingrained in me. I don't know if it's my Capricorn nature, but very business minded. And also I think it's in my DNA because I recently found out my grandfather on my mother's side, so I had businesses on both of my family sides. So both of my parents, my dad and my mom, they both had the last name King, all right? So that was the first thing. They both had the last name King. My grandparents on my mother's side they had to do a background check or dig into my dad's lineage because they wanted to make sure that my parents were not related anywhere in the family tree or whatever because they had the same last name. My mom even said a part of the reason why she married my dad was because she didn't want to change her last name. So that alone right there gave me the King sting is what my family calls the King sting because I have King on both sides. The last name King is on both sides of my family. Also, when I was little, I always had an urge to write. Writing has always come naturally to me. I remember I used to look at my mom when she used to read me books like bedtime stories. I would just focus in on her mouth moving and saying and pronouncing the words. And I think I could read even before I went to kindergarten or whatever because all the books that she read me to go to sleep at night, She would read them to me, and then the next day I would just get up, and since I had memorized the story, I would just basically look at the pictures and then look at the words and just repeat what she had said. You know what I mean? So that's why it's so important you guys read to your kids. Shameless plug, my new kids book, Heirs to the Throne, is available now on Amazon. So writing came natural to me ever since a kid. When I was in the 4th grade, I wrote a play for school. It was a little contest. They were like, the best play is going to get presented in front of the whole school. So I wrote this play. It was like my version of the Three Little Pigs. I can't even remember how it went, but my teacher loved it so much. She entered me into the contest. Everybody loved it so much. I'm talking about these are grown people, staff and faculty, reading this play that I wrote as a little, 8, 9-year-old kid. And they put on the whole production for this play that I wrote. That's when I knew, when I saw that made me feel like I was being seen and appreciated. And it made me feel like, man, this is really cool. People really like, what I have to say. Because as a child, I was never really listened to. I was always brushed to the side or told to be quiet, mind your business, grown folks talking and all that kind of stuff. And I was never really given my voice until recently. My throat chakra was crushed and closed a long time ago, and it really took for me to come into my own and to go through my spiritual journey to realize what my throat chakra was and how important it is to open that and also my inner child. There's a lot of things that my spiritual journey taught me that I'm so happy for. But we're not talking about that in this video. We're talking about how corporate America gave me PTSD. So I just wanted to give you a little backstory about how long I have been working. I have been working since a teenager. So fast forward to, I've had so many jobs. And yes, a lot of them, I won't say a lot of them, but a few of them, it was my fault that I got fired. But vast majority of them, it had nothing to do with me as a person, my work performance. It had nothing to do, you know what I mean? It wasn't a real legitimate reason for me to be fired. And back then, when I first started working as like in my 20s and my 30s, it was really devastating because at that time, I had no idea about multiple streams of income. I'm strictly relying on this one job to provide my needs. And if that job ends, I don't know where else to go to get money. And I have never really, looking back, made the type of money where I could put up and save and have a big nest egg, and something happened to my job, I'll be good for 3, 4, 6 months to a year. I've never made that type of money in corporate America. And there I had a lot of factors against me, being a Black woman for one, but I also had gotten in some trouble early in my life that gave me a record. So my background, so every time I would go to get jobs, that's another thing that gave me PTSD. I had to you always have to do a background check. I live in Georgia, which is an at-will state, which means that they can fire you at any time they feel like it, basically for any reason. But this trouble I got into was in 2001. And at that time, I was working at a very reputable company. I'm not gonna say any names of any companies, but let's just say they manufacture private jets. Just put it like that. It was a aviation company, very well known in my hometown. So I was working there, and how I got the charges, I was on my way to work. Yes, I was speeding, so that was my fault, but the officer handled me really, really rough. Now, this was years ago. This was before there were cell phones and stuff back then, but they didn't have cameras and stuff on them, how they did back in the day. So I got pulled over speeding on my way to work, had just dropped my 2 boys off. At that time, they were really young. They were in elementary school. So I'm rushing to get to work. I'm running behind. All that's my fault. So when this police officer stopped me, at that time, I had just purchased a car. I had purchased this car in South Carolina, and they had not shipped my plates, okay? I didn't have a tag on my car. I just had the paper tag. This officer made it so difficult for me. He was just really aggressive. It was just horrible. The whole situation was horrible. But long story short, how I got the charges was I was dishonest to the police. I lied because I was scared, okay? I was afraid, all right? That's how I got the charge. I didn't get the charge for murder, for bank robbery, for any kind of thievery. I didn't get it for, aggression or battery or fighting or none of that. It was a simple mistake that I made, being backed into a corner and being frightened, okay? That thing haunted me for the past 20 something years, okay? In 2025 now, that was in 2001, okay? Me being charged with a felony for false statements, the same thing your new president got 30 something counts of, and he's the president of the United States right now. I had one of those charges on my record that prevented me from fully moving ahead in corporate America, because a lot of times when people I would do excellent on all the interviews. People would love my personality. They would love, show up professional. I always dress professional because my mom also worked for said company, the aviation company, for many years. And me growing up, her getting dressed up for work, she would wear like suits, pants and slacks and dresses, like nice and skirts and blouses and things like that, and heels. So that's what I saw every day. And I'm like, man, I can't wait till I grow up. I'm gonna be a businesswoman and, end up working for the same company for a little while. But when this incident happened, I lost my job. Okay. So it was just like a snowball effect. And with me having something fresh on my record, when I first went back out into corporate America, it was impossible for me to get a job because everybody looking at me like, she just got out of jail, or she got a felony. Ooh, she got a felony. And I mean, PTSD was the degrading looks that people would give you. And I remember I used to approach it differently. I would do the interview, and then sometimes I would just mention to the manager, say, well, okay, well, it went well. So what would be the next steps in the job process? And anytime that they mentioned a background check, I would immediately, well, I just want to let you know ahead of time before you even run it, I'm going to let you know I do have something on my background. And then I would go into this long, I would try to explain to them, what happened and, the situation. I was afraid, but I learned from my mistakes. And, I would go into this little spiel. I don't going to let my past hinder my future. I had like this spiel that I would do. But it was like every time, as soon as I said, and you know how they make you check on the application, even if you have been convicted of a crime, or if you have a felony background, you can check yes on here, and it will not, I don't know how they word it, but they basically say, if you admit that you got a felony on your record, or you got something on your background, it's not gonna discriminate from your hiring process. That's a damn lie, okay? Because like a switch that I could see a change in the person's personality, okay? And at the time, the type of jobs I was going for, office jobs, corporate jobs, and most of the time, these people were like this color, okay? So already hard for me going in there, trying to prove myself. I have the intelligence to do the jobs that I'm applying for, but then it was like, as soon as I said that, bang, they're like, I could just see the shift. It was like, I see it and I could feel it because I'm an empath. Back then, I didn't know that I could pick up on energy like that. But now looking back, I'm saying, like, oh my God, like if I replay it in my mind, I'm like, yeah, it was an instant shift in their energy. So that really hindered me from getting jobs. I kept hitting wall, got to the point where, and at that time, like I said, my sons were young. They were in elementary school. So I have 2 sons. So it got to the point where it got really bad. It got to the point where I started losing things. My car got repossessed. Because if I can't work, I didn't know how to get money without working. That was all that I knew at the time. I didn't know anything about financial literacy. I had no idea about, know anything. All I knew was work, get your check. You pay your bills, you go back to work, repeat, that I knew. I was still trying to write. I was still doing all of those things, but I wasn't making money from any of that stuff. I'm talking about, I have done everything. I used to be a writer. Well, I'm still a writer, but I've written books. I used to rap. I was a rapper. Like back Trina and Little Kim days, I was a rapper and up and coming. I was trying to be a rapper. I'm glad I didn't. I got we're going to do another video about that, being a rapper. I still write rhymes and stuff like that, and I still go to the studio with some of my friends and everything. But yeah, I was trying to get into the music game. I'm glad I didn't. But yeah, a lot of things. I did a lot of different work. I worked in warehouses. I worked at restaurants. I worked at Walmart. I worked at many different, like I the type of person that is like, this is beneath me. I'm not going to do that type of work. I think I have done just about every job that there is to do. I was a bartender for a long time. I've been an exotic dancer. So the reason why I became an exotic dancer was because I kept running into a wall trying to get jobs in corporate America. Like even jobs like secretary or admin, admin stuff. I kept hitting a wall because I had a fresh felony record, okay? Even my charges weren't violent and they didn't involve drugs or anything like that, it was still frowned upon, okay? Nobody would hire me. So it got to the point, like I said, I was losing everything. I had lost my car. I lost my place where I was staying, my little apartment. It was just a little 2-bedroom apartment, but it was, that was where me and my sons were staying. And it had gotten to the point where I was staying in a hotel where like one of those, so I think it's a suburban lodge where you pay by the week or whatever. And I remember I was down to like my week. I only had enough money to pay for like 1 week of the hotel. And I'm like, after this, we're gonna have to leave and I don't have anywhere to go. Another video that I'm gonna do is about my family, because everybody always asks, well, where's your family? Like, where's your mom and dad and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole nother topic that I'm gonna do in a different video. But long story short on that, my family don't mess with me like that. So when it came to asking for a place to stay, even my own mother told me to take me and her grandsons to the shelter. I couldn't stay with her. It was a difficult time. And I remember I could not find a job anywhere. Even like clothing, I was trying to get jobs at. Remember cousins, fast food restaurants, everywhere that did not a credit check, everywhere that did a background check was telling me no, okay? So our dance, let's go dance. My cousin on my dad's side, my cousin, she kept asking me like, let's all this dance. And I'm like, girl, I'm not about to do that. But when it got crunch time and it was that last week in that hotel, and I was like, okay, I can't have my kids on the street. I can't take my kids to a homeless shelter, kind of stuff. When push came to shove, I was like, okay, I'll try. So my cousin ended up backing out at the last minute. So I went by myself, some little raunchy club in the backwoods, but that's how I ended up dancing because I had no other alternatives at that time in my mind. You know what I'm saying? All I knew was, work to make money. When I couldn't get a job there, the club hired me immediately, just based on what I look like. So, and money was easy, quick, fast. It was like drug dealer money. You get it every day, you getting it in cash. It was addictive, okay? So that's how I ended up dancing. My transition from being in the club, going back into corporate America was that traumatizing again, because when I finally got ready, I was like, okay, I have to get out of this lifestyle. I have to, time is get jobs again. So while I was dancing, I did finish school. I went back to college. I finished my degree. I got my bachelor's degree. So I was like, maybe now that I got my degree, it'll be easier for me to transition back into getting a job. And now, basically asked and all this kind of stuff. So what I did, I went through a temp agency and I started getting jobs like that through the temp agency, because when you work through the temp agency, nobody's running your background because you're being referred by the temp agency just based on your skill set. The temp agency did the background check, but they don't share that information with the company. They just, resume or whatever. So that was my loophole of how I started getting back into corporate America. And I even advanced to the point where I was working in corporate finance and I was being an accountant. So I got experience in corporate finance for many years. Over 10 years I worked in corporate finance. So that's how I transitioned from being a dancer back into corporate America. I got my college degree and I started working through the temp agency and just proving myself. And that was the thing, like, I've always been a hard worker. I've always put 110% in everything that I did. I was the type, I would work through my break. I would sign up for overtime. I would come in on the weekends. Like I was doing everything above and beyond. I was going above and beyond on all of these different assignments that I was being sent to. And it was like when you work for a temp agency, you don't have any benefits. So you don't have PTO sick time. You don't have, you need to go to the doctor, like all that's on you. So that was a con to it. But what would happen is they would send you on these assignments and they would say, oh, well, this is a temp to hire opportunity. And you in your mind thinking like, oh, okay, I can get in here. I can do my best. I can put my best foot forward and show them that they're going to hire me. What happened every time? Now, I'm not saying this happens. I know some people get temp jobs and they do actually get hired by the companies. But I don't know what it was about me. I was doing, like I said, going above and beyond, trying to prove myself to these companies, right? Sometimes I would never get hired. It would be with the company. I would always remain a temp for long periods of time. So it's apparent like, okay, my family like my work. Y'all like just having me here, but you don't want to bring me on permanent. Decorate. You don't want to give me the job security. You don't want to give me the benefits with the job, but you're fine hiring me and keeping me on with the temp agency. As employees, like a toxic when the assignments would end, okay, be devastating because I'm like, well, damn, I'm getting used to it here. I got all this, why bring like pictures of my sons and, put them on my desk. You your little cubicle and you settle in, push something, be bringing your lunch and stuff. I get comfortable, okay? Especially graphically, you working somewhere more than 6 months. So I was working these long drawn out assignments and it got to the point where it was a work environment. Like the accident about would be toxic. The supervisors would be toxic. I had one lady, she was a micromanager. She was a racist micromanager. I'm like, you hire me if you don't think I can do the work. She would walk past my desk. What are you doing? What are you working on? Then she would, it was just a nightmare, man. I've like some of the stuff out of my mind because that's what I got PTSD because it was so just horrifying. The things that I went through. Then you have coworkers jealous of you for no reason, nosy as hell in your business, want to know where your man at, why you not married. Before your kids all the time. I know some people are being nice or whatever, but some people just being monitoring spirits and being in your business, looking at your car in the parking lot, make sure. I used to drive a BMW. People like, how you like just nosy because they wondering how you get that kind of car and we all in here making the same salary, okay? Like, it's a lot to deal with. And the thing that I didn't like was the inconsistency, the not knowing. I got to the point where instead of decorating my cubicle when I get on a new assignment or a job, I would now things just take one picture of my sons and that would be it. I wouldn't decorate anything. I would just keep my desk clean because I was always like even mess. I used to COVID. I was always a neat freak and a clean freak. I was already a germaphobe, so everywhere I worked, the first thing I do is wipe everything down, clean everything, and it was clean. But as far as like bringing most took $16 bumping up and a whole bunch of stuff in there because one time I got walked out with a box of my shit and I was like, you know what, never again. That was the most embarrassing thing ever happened to me. And like I said, a lot of times it wasn't anything that I was doing wrong on these jobs. It was just for some reason it wasn't aligned with my purpose, okay? And looking back, I understand that better because some are not meant for you. Some things are not aligned for you. And that with my self-worth, my self-esteem, that mess with my mental capacity because I'm, really get depressed when I would lose these jobs. I would be depressed because for one, I'm thinking like, how am I going to survive? I got, I'm already living check to check. Like I said, I never really made enough money to like really a big nest egg. I was a single mom raising 2 sons on my own, okay? The per hour that I made in corporate America was $30 an hour. And that was the recent, like up in 2019 when I was making that money before I started my business. So all before I was making, when I first started an office job, I was probably making like $13 an hour. That was like in early mid 90s. Or the early 2000s. Then like when I went back into corporate America, I was making like 15 an hour and it kept bumping up until I was making 25 to 30 once I became an accountant. So I never really made, good money, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't enough. It was never enough. And I never lived no like extravagant life. I've always lived below my means or whatever. I hate that term, but I was never like over. I never went, anything. So it was just really frustrating to be on that in the rat race and never really, work all the time. I never really get no vacation time because I always got to work. It was just frustrating. Um, and I was like, I have to figure out a way to get myself ahead of the game. I have to figure out a way because I've always had dreams of living luxuriously, dreams of, it's just like it was ingrained in my DNA. And like I said, I have King is my last name 2 times. The King stain is on me, baby. So I just always had visions of grandeur and just being royalty, okay? So I just knew that corporate America was not going to bring that to me, at least not easily. Another thing I didn't like about corporate America is how cutthroat people were. You have cutthroat employees, coworkers, you have cutthroat supervisors, don't want to see you progress, people that don't want to see you advance higher than them. And a lot of times I'm not trying to take anybody's position or job, but people would just be threatened by just my presence, okay? And it took me a long time to admit this to myself. People will always, when I describe situations and scenario, go and you vent to your significant other or your girlfriends, like, guess what happened to me today at work, girl? You will go and vent. And when I'm telling people these stories, they're telling me those people are jealous of you. That sounds like they're jealous of you. Like, why would they even do that? That makes no sense. They could be jealous of you. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, jealousy for what? Like, I'm like, I'm just a, employee. She way more money than me. Why is she jealous? But after, now I realize, yes, it's because of my divine shine, okay? It's who I was. It was my presence, okay? It, a lot of people's demons. And I didn't understand it then, but I do now. And looking back, now I understand. And that's what helped me gain that mental clarity and helped me get myself out of my own head and thinking that something was wrong with me, thinking that I was, slow, unworthy, that kind of stuff. I had to get out of that mindset because that was really literally killing me. It was killing me mentally. It was making me depressed. It was making me feel less than, unworthy. And only just corporate America. On top of that, I'm dealing with, myself. I'm dealing with relationship issues, you know what I mean? And being with somebody who don't value you, then you got, it was just compounding. I spent a lot of years being depressed about a lot of things that I felt like were out of my control. You saved my life. Spirituality gave me the voice and it gave me the strength to build myself up, okay? To give myself some glory and some grace and to really come into my own, okay? But corporate, I don't know what to say about it other than it really traumatized me. It traumatized me to the point where I don't want to do it anymore. Even now, sometimes when I think like, man, I having a job, but even filling out job applications, like that is so stupid to me and so redundant. Like you got a resume, my resume telling you everything you need to know. Unless you're going to give me the job, then I can fill out, information type of stuff. But why do I got to give you all this information if I don't even know if you're going to hire me? And I got to do this several different times for all these different companies, asking the same thing over and over again. One of my, pet peeve questions is race, because why does that matter? Okay. Why do you care what race I am if I'm trying to find work? And the background thing, like I said, because I already know when you check that yes, it automatically kicks you out, even though they that it doesn't. That has not been my experience. I have never gotten a job where I was honest and checked yes on that box and they hired me. It just never happened. Not for me. Maybe somebody else. So that was my experience in corporate America and a little bit of my personal history and background. But yeah, that's why I started my business. I started King Infinity Inc. in 2019 because I was like, I have to figure out a way to get my money up. I have to figure out a way to have an overflow in my life. And corporate America is not going to give it to me. If it was to depend on corporate America, I would run myself ragged way before my time, okay? Just get, 401k or, I just knew I was never going to get to the $100,000 mark in my career. It wasn't going to happen. Not in the timing that I wanted it to happen. So that's why I started my business. And I encourage anyone, it's not for everybody. I get it. I understand. Not everybody is meant to be a business owner. Not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody has the entrepreneurial spirit. I get it. But if you do have the entrepreneurial spirit, I encourage you to start your business immediately, as soon as you can. Start off just doing sole proprietorship at first, and then do your LLC. Man, if you're being called to be in business, to start your own business, do it as quickly as you can, okay? A lot of blessings started happening for me business-wise once I took that step, okay? Yes, it was scary. Yes, I didn't know what I was doing. So hell, sometimes I still don't know what I'm doing, okay? I'm winging it, but I am so happy that it's something that I decided to do, because like I said, a lot of things in my life wouldn't be as progressed as they are right now if I would have just still been dependent on one paycheck a week from corporate America that could end at any time. So yeah, I thank God for my business sense. Thank you, Most High. Yeah, if you want to tap into my business, King Infinity Inc., the description will be in the box below. I'm still getting used to YouTube, you guys. Please be forgiving to me, okay? Don't be in the comments. But anyway, that's today's episode of Coco's Couch. All right, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me, Coco Divine, and that is on all of my socials. I am Coco Divine 8 on Instagram and TikTok. All right, I love you guys. Peace.